Greetings, Galactic Jedis, freedom fighters, light warriors, starseeds, and all of the wonderful people that are tuning in. How is everyone doing out there? For those who don't know me, my name is Ishmael Perez, and I'm the author of those two amazing books, The Secret Government, Invisible Architects, and of course, Our Cosmic Origin, both which are available on Amazon. Now, today's presentation is going to be really good. A lot of interesting things have been unfolding, especially the usage of the partial solar eclipse to conduct a reversal harvest in terms of a revival that took place yesterday, despite the fact that most people think it was staged and whatever, everyone's entitled to believe whatever they want to believe. What happened yesterday was a revival on a scale that was actually overseen by the Galactics. Now, I'm also going to talk about the ending of Antifa, which is not only happening here in the States, but it's actually happening worldwide. Did you guys know that Antifa was an international organization? And guess who is at the head of Antifa? That's right, the Mossad. So we're going to go deep today. We're also going to talk about what happened to King Charles after his meeting with Trump a few days ago. All of a sudden, King Charles had to go to the emergency room. Well, it looks like we might be seeing the end of the fiat system, the petrochemical companies, and the rise of Tesla technology, zero-point energy. Yeah, enough to cause a panic and a heart attack, right? To King Charles. We're also going to go over a lot of interesting developments that are unfolding right now as the International Alliance, aka the White Hats, are in their final phase in the liberation of the planet. My friends, the time has come. Welcome to my Monday night Earth Alliance White Hat update. It's going to be good, like always. I do want to extend gratitude to Starcadian, the Troll Slayer. I see he changed his name back to Starcadian. Welcome, brother, and I appreciate you keeping the high vibe in the live chat. I also want to remind you guys that my October classes for only $100, I decided to keep everything $100, just make it affordable. All right. Knowledge is power. Available on my website, ourcosmicorigin.com. For those that have not signed up for my October classes, I have Our Cosmic Origin, which is a mind-bending course, 4 weeks in a row, back to back. Cosmic intel that, again, it's only being taught in a interstellar university. And of course, my Ascension basics for those that are just starting to understand what this transition is between the 3D into the 5D is all about. And then, of course, Ascension 2.0, learning how to connect to the quantum field, how to activate the light body, how to become a co-creator with the universal architect, and Ascension 3.0, my newest course, how to embody the cosmic self. In either case, guys, I am excited about tonight's presentation. I hope you guys are doing well. I do want to extend gratitude to everyone that watches this live and even on the replay. Thank you guys so much for being here. All right, let's get right into it. Did I bring water? Yes, I did. It's a good thing I was prepared today, so that way I don't have to keep getting back up. All right, so what happened yesterday? Whether you believe if it was a staged event or not, it doesn't matter, okay? There is a reason why the White Hats decided to hold this event during the solar eclipse, okay? So the memorial service that took place yesterday, guys, took place at a time of profound cosmic alignment, coinciding with, of course, the solar eclipse that stretches across the heavens. Well, for centuries, we all know, right, that eclipses have been what? Weaponized by the cabal as moments of dark alchemy, right? Rituals of bloodshed to harvest human energy, loosh, right? These events created what is known as, of course, loosh throughout history. And this could be traceable back to even the Roman gladiator shows and, when they used to feed the first Christians to the lions, and even before that, back to Babylon, okay? So this is a psychic field that has long sustained the parasitic system of the Satanist-controlled corporations in modern times, and of course, their off world, the negative AI and the Dracos. Well, yesterday, my friends, the White Hats inverted this pattern, transforming the eclipse into a beacon of light, hope, and revival. Okay. Rather than allowing the eclipse to become another tool for harvesting humanity's fear and grief, the White Hats orchestrated Charlie Kirk's memorial as a spiritual act of defiance. The eclipse magnified the frequency of collective intention, turning sorrow into a wave of courage for those that watched it. It was all based on that faith and unity under God and restoring the rule of law, right? Bringing back God to the Constitution. Well, the thousands in attendance, I think it was over 80,000, right? Strong, 180,000 strong. Thank you for the correction. We're not merely mourners, but participants in a mass awakening, a revival like never before. Well, as voices lifted in prayer and remembrance, the energy of the movement surged outward, fortifying the revival of the rule of law under God and restoring the divine principles back to America, right? The restoration of the republic on which it was built upon by the founding fathers. Well, the White Hat's intention yesterday was actually very clear, all right? To redirect humanity back to the moral and spiritual compass embodied in Christ's teachings. Because if you guys watch the memorial, it was all about the teachings of Christ and how to become Christ-like, right? How to live as if you were the Christ. Forgiveness, love, courage, truth. One of the hardest things to do as a believer in the one infinite creator is learning how to forgive our own enemies. And yesterday, as demonstrated by Erica Kirk, which was a very powerful, sentimental moment, guys, forgiving the so-called lone assassin. Of course, we know, he was a patsy-watsy, right? We all know that all roads lead to Netanyahu when it came to what happened to Charlie. Anyways, what Erica did in forgiving her husband's murderer was a testament of the power of forgiveness, okay? Not to mention, it also focused on courage and truth. The memorial became more than just a tribute to a fallen patriot. It was a cornerstone moment for a revival. The act of gathering under the shadow of the eclipse symbolized the triumph of light breaking through the darkness in a nation that has long been hijacked by lawless, controlled Satanist elites. This event carried the seed of restoration, reawakening the republic as it was originally conceived. One nation under God. Okay? Well, there's more to the story. Hovering invincibly above the stadium yesterday, and this was confirmed by Commander Valiant Thor. In fact, this transmission is coming from Commander Valiant Thor. We had the Galactic allies that stood watch. For them, the Galactic allies that were hovering over the stadium is not only an astronomical phenomena, but a portal of amplified energy, an opportunity to safeguard humanity's shift into the positive timeline. So yeah, a big shift took place yesterday that collapsed more negative timelines. All right. Right now, we are in the midst of multiple coexisting timelines. Reports confirm that Mossad-trained deep state operatives attempted to sabotage the memorial by plotting a mass casualty event, hoping to invert the revival into yet another loosh harvest. That's what their plans were, if it wasn't for the Galactic's intervention yesterday. Well, their plan was to detonate, and they did have, according to Commander Valiant Thor, they had massive BOMBS explosives within pockets of the stadium, right? Turning the mourning of 180,000 souls into a fuel for their parasitic system in the event that these explosives would have erupted. Well, the Galactics, working in tandem with the Earth Alliance operatives, neutralized the attacks yesterday. Thank God. That was a miracle, all right? For those of you that doubt the intervention of the positive allies of humanity, Guess again. They were there yesterday, okay? They completely neutralized what would have been the most devastating event in America, all right? Even worse than what happened on September 1st, 2011, because everyone was there. The president, the vice president, Congress, senators, the whole Republican cabinet, I believe, was there, okay? Not to mention all those innocent souls that were there in the stadiums. Well, the Galactics used advanced frequency technologies that disable the devices before they would implode or explode. Okay. What was meant to be a massacre yesterday became a miraculous preservation of life. Well, this protection ensured that the eclipse energy was not stolen, but amplified and redirected into the collective heart of the people. Okay. At the heart of this movement, my friends, is the revival of Christ consciousness, which was demonstrated by the life lived by Charlie Kirk. The recognition that divine love is the antidote to all tyranny. It is. The White Hats understood that by inspiring people to live more Christ like, courageous, forgiving, faithful, that the eclipse would actually serve as a catalyst for an unstoppable revival. Every prayer that was said yesterday, every song that was sung, every word spoken at the memorial reverberated across the entire planet. Like I said, it collapsed more negative timelines, strengthening the bifurcating positive timeline leading into the golden age of light. Charlie Kirk's passing, rather than silencing a voice of truth, has ignited a spiritual fire, not only across America, but across the entire planet. His memorial became a cosmic turning point, transforming grief into power and aligning humanity with its highest density. So this is the turning tide, okay? The turning point USA, like never before. We're going to be seeing a massive turnover, not only here in the States, but throughout the entire planet. What was once a moment of darkness has now become a symbol of the new era, my friends. The solar eclipse yesterday, that was, of course, throughout history, long abused by the cabal, was actually reclaimed by the White Hats as a sacred moment of revival. And with the Galactic standing guard, the deep state's plans were thwarted yesterday. And the Republic spirit was what? Reignited. Okay. This memorial marks not just the honoring of a patriot, but the dawn of a movement, one that will restore the rule of law under God, extend to all nations. And in a little bit, I'm going to talk about Putin's declaring a war against all Satanists. Okay. This is a worldwide phenomenon. Okay. In either case, what happened yesterday was about restoring the rule of law under God, extending to all nations, preparing the earth for the golden age of enlightenment, which is what we call the millennium. So the eclipse, once a harbinger of sorrow, has now been transmuted into a sign of hope, heralding humanity's return to divine order. For those who see the Earth's renewal as part of a cosmic project with which I'm sure a lot of you guys know, right? If you guys understand the bigger picture, with the extraterrestrial allies that have been helping us from behind the scenes, and of course, the Galactic Alliance, who are the extraterrestrial allies, stewardship the transition that took place yesterday. They stewardship the transition, okay? The memorial became a point of convergence, an earthly ceremony witnessed by and aligned with larger forces for good. And yes, believe it or not, this was actually broadcast across many different star nations throughout the Milky Way. All eyes are on us. The entire interstellar and galactic community is witnessing the liberation of the earth as I speak, my friends. In addition to all of this, President Trump has officially designated Antifa as a major terrorist organization. With a single post on Truth Social, Trump tore through the veil of obfuscation that has protected one of the deep state's most effective weapons, and the reverberations were immediate, not only here within the States, but worldwide. And I'll explain. Within 24 hours, the Netherlands followed suit, right? Antifa is an international organization that is an extension of the Mossad, for those that didn't know. Okay. Hungary wasn't far behind either. The mask is being ripped off, guys. All right. The elite's favorite tool of controlled chaos was finally being named, shamed, and hunted, not only here in the States, but worldwide. Because Antifa was never what it claimed to be. Far from a grassroots protest movement, Antifa was designed, engineered from the top down, backed by Soros. And of course, Soros works for what? All roads lead to what? Mossad, right? As an asymmetric warfare force. Well, it was the shadow army of the global elite, funded by the same web of donors who had backed color revolutions, mass migration agendas, and regime collapses from Venezuela to Ukraine. George Soros may be the face of Antifa, but the true power lies in untouchable offshore networks connected to the Khazarian Zionists who have been using NGOs masquerading as humanitarian projects or humanitarian groups, crypto pipelines, and even climate justice fronts functioning as covert black ops for the Davos class who is controlled by the fake Jews. The Dutch parliament also made a historic move by labeling Antifa a terror group. This was not a coincidence, my friends. It was a preemptive shift driven by leaked documents from a Trump-aligned international task force dedicated to exposing domestic subversion. Well, these documents, reportedly circulated through classified NATO channels, revealed coordinated digital warfare, ideological programming in universities, which was what Charlie Kirk was trying to undo, and targeting street-level violence under the banner of anti-fascism. In truth, these were not protests, my friends. They were rehearsals, field exercises in modern civil destabilization. And the Netherlands was merely a testing ground. Soros chose, of course, not Soros, my bad. According to insiders, sources close to NATO whistleblowers have confirmed that Antifa cells, right, sleeper cells, were actually trained alongside specific Ukrainian battalions, groups receiving European Union NGO funding under the guise of peacekeeping, and their mission was to collapse national identity, religious values, especially Christianity. For those who didn't know, the cabal, they are the real Satanists, right? So it is a war against God. This is a war between the descendants of Ham, Nimrod, Babylon, Cain, and the descendants of the original Israelites, not the fake Jews of today, the original descendants of King David, Abraham, and the lost 10 tribes, who, by the way, all they did was just disperse to different regions of the earth. They're still around, or the descendants of the lost 10 tribes are still around. Anyhow, the mission of Antifa worldwide was to collapse national identity, religious values, and family structures from within. Well, we all know that the family is the building block of a cooperative, civilized society. And this is another thing that Charlie Kirk stood for. In fact, all throughout the memorial yesterday, it was about what? It was about family. It was about justice. It was about being courageous, faith, returning the rule of law back to the country, and returning God back to the country. There's nothing wrong with that. We need to have a republic that is based on Christian principles. right? Which really are derived from the law of one teachings. Again, these are the same principles that many advanced extraterrestrials, spiritually mature extraterrestrials, abide by. Okay. And no, it is not religion, guys. It is a way of life. There is a difference. Okay. So the whole purpose of declaring war against Antifa on an international level was was to counteract their executing of the disintegration of society. That was the agenda of Antifa. It was to completely disintegrate society as we know it, right? Which leads to what? The one world government. Well, now they're all being hunted. All of the members of Antifa. Hungary's prime minister, Viktor Orban, wasted no time also, all right? Antifa also infiltrated his country. Well, in a move aligned directly with Trump, and this is why I also know that Hungary, though the minister Viktor Orban of Hungary is part of the alliance, guys, all right? In alignment with Trump, Viktor Orban, the prime minister of Hungary, also initiated a new directive declaring Antifa a terrorist organization in in Europe, okay? But of course, Orban has long warned about foreign ideological infiltration, but the 2023 events in Budapest proved that the threat was more than just theoretical. Antifa sleeper cells that were linked to Germany, who was run by the cabal and it still is run by the cabal, and Italy, who is also run by the cabal, executed coordinated disruptions targeting Hungary's sovereign policies on border control, education, and national currency. Orban knew what was coming, and he is not alone, right? The alliance is a coalition of over 108 or 9 nations, from what I understand. Okay. Back in the US, guys, military tribunals are still underway as they are expanding the facilities of Guantanamo Bay, still blacked out from the public view, of course, until all this comes to light. Intelligent insiders have confirmed that Antifa's deep state protection has collapsed. That's good news. The summer of rage, which was supposed to happen if the sleeper cells would have been activated, once plans that was planned, of course, to destabilize Trump's 2025 re-inauguration, was neutralized before it happened. Okay? They were planning on disrupting Trump's second term, but they were destabilized and neutralized, which was a good thing. Okay? Trump's White Hat Alliance acted in March, knowing that this summer was going to be chaotic, right, due to the Antifa terrorist networks. And so covert operations shut down stockpiles in Portland, Chicago, and Philadelphia, which is good, all right? Otherwise, we would have had a chaotic summer. These were not protest supplies, they were armories for street warfare. So the real purpose of Antifa was never just about opposing fascism. That was a lie. It was the modern day equivalent of the Brown Shirts, a paramilitary wing operating with elite protection designed to provoke martial law scenarios under the control of the deep state, of course. And their aim, justifying emergency powers, rolling out digital IDs, introducing a CBDC type of currency with biometric tracking under the illusion of public safety. And this is what would have happened if Camel Toe Harry would have stolen the 2024 ELECTION. So their funding, of course, traced to shell corporations, Rockefellers. And yes, the Rockefellers owned every oil company, by the way. Not only here in the States, but in Belgium, Switzerland, and of course, they operate from what? From New York, right? So they're operatives, ex-intelligent agents, radicalized students, and foreign nationals with forged documents Take the case of Salis, an Italian national arrested in Budapest, just one of many tied to a larger network targeting conservative nations and values. Well, now the U.S. Cyber Command has stepped in. So now that the U.S. Cyber Command has stepped in, dozens of Antifa linked Telegram channels and dark web nodes have been infiltrated and shut down by the alliance. Investigations are also underway into connections with foreign intelligence services, including Mossad-linked cells operating out of California. And so Trump's decisive action has apparently set off a geopolitical chain reaction, not just here in the States, but worldwide. Okay? Austria, Italy, and even US states like Florida are now moving to follow suit. Rumors suggest Governor Ron DeSantis is in direct talks with DHS to block Antifa activity across digital platforms and encrypted networks. Federal funding has already been approved to support this effort. Well, this is no longer a speculation, my friends. This is straight out a coordinated global response, okay, by the White Hats. The elite's chaos machine is breaking down. The infrastructure of subversion built over decades is finally exposed. And so Trump has officially declared war on Antifa, on top of the criminal networks, which is a good thing. Now, the real reason, guys, energy prices are exploding in Europe and why King Charles was rushed to the hospital shortly after his meeting with Trump. Well, you guys are going to love this report, okay? In the last 60 days, energy prices across NATO nations have surged by an unprecedented 70 to 300%, from London to Berlin, from Paris to Warsaw. Families are being crushed under the weight of rapidly rising utility bills, which is the reason why billions marched last week, right, during the protest in England. Billions of people. Okay, well, the mainstream media has offered its standard set of excuses: unusual weather patterns, supply chain disruptions, resource scarcity, and global inflation. But the truth, my friends, is far much deeper. Okay, and it's far more coordinated than the media dares to admit. Thank you. What we are witnessing here is not simply a side accident, right, or a supply side accident. It is an economic pressure campaign, strategic, global, and rooted in fear. Because this old guard energy monopolies, which is what? Fossil fuel giants, right? Grid operators and state-aligned utility cartels know that their time is up. Well, they are in full panic, my friends. For decades, the global energy economy has been controlled from the top down. Oil, gas, and coal conglomerates, many with deep state connections, have profited immediately or immensely by what? By locking the world into a centralized system of control through these resources, which are very limited. But, thank you. But a quiet revolution is happening also, and it threatens to shatter their entire empire overnight. Free energy technologies, which often inspired by the suppressed research of Nikola Tesla, are finally gaining traction. And this is what the Alliance is going to be implementing when they expose and eliminate the cabal, okay? Decentralized, non-polluting, and nearly costless energy to operate. These systems represent an existential threat. Well, no, the other coal, right? Fossil fuels, oil, as we know it, petrochemical companies, they represent an existential threat, not only to society, but to the environment. So, As we eliminate these systems and we begin to use Tesla technology, free energy, well, that is going to completely collapse the old guard as we know it. Okay. In fact, that is the foundation, the pillar in which the cabal stands on. It is their petrochemical companies, oil, coal. Okay. Inventors, engineers, and rogue scientists have been developing these devices in secret, some using magnetic resonance fields, others relying on zero point energy stabilization. And many of these technologies were dismissed as what? Pseudoscience for many, many years. Until now. Until now. Because behind the scenes, Trump's return to power in 2025 has actually brought renewed support for the long buried agenda of energy freedom. And yes, it has been confirmed that Trump knows about the free energy technologies, right? That's why he doesn't want to use electric cars, because that's another scam. He wants to go directly to the zero point energy. He wants to go directly into Tesla technology. Okay. And that was the reason why he met with King Charles, to let King Charles know that his time is up and the entire organization behind him is up. And so all of these monopolies that have been controlling our world for centuries are now terrified, all right? These sudden energy prices surges in Europe, they are not happening by chance, guys. This is all being orchestrated in order to begin using Tesla technology and eliminate these outdated resources that are very limited, okay? They are an economic warfare tactics being employed by the Earth Alliance. Preemptive strikes, the monopolies are using rate hikes to punish the population, unfortunately. And that's why, billions rose against it last week. Subtly warning governments and innovators alike to stray too far from the system. No, they're saying don't stray too far from the system. Well, the hikes are designed to do three things, my friends. Okay. They are going to crush public morale, making decentralized energy sound like a luxury, not a necessity. Deter investment, making potential funders think that the energy market is too volatile. And then, of course, buy time. This is what the deep state's trying to do. In order to what? Roll out digital energy IDs and carbon tracking credits before the decentralized grid arrives, which is the quantum financial system and the quantum financial grid, okay, which is going to correlate with the rise of Tesla technology, free energy, okay? So, however, it is too late for the deep staters and the globalists, guys, because Trump's alliance has extended beyond the borders, okay? A quiet summit, you could say that quiet summits have been taking place across Europe. Some say that the recent low-profile meeting between President Trump and King Charles wasn't just symbolic, it was strategic, okay? And it didn't even end well for the old guard, because what happened after Trump and Charles's meeting, well, you guys know what happened, right? After they met in closed doors, King Charles was suddenly hospitalized. He was rushed to the hospital. Official reports did cite routine monitoring and minor concerns, but behind palace doors, insiders are whispering another story, right? Trump reportedly presented Charles with declassified energy transition intel documents outlining the global shift away from the fossil fuels and the coordinated cover-ups that are tied to energy suppression efforts dating back to the 1940s. Well, no wonder King Charles almost had a heart attack. He should have just had one, right? Well, sources say that King Charles was visibly shaken by this news, not only because of what he saw, but because of what was now backing the transition. The U.S. Military Space Force Division is tearing wireless energy relay systems has been testing. The U.S. Military Space Force Division has been testing wireless energy relay systems based on Tesla technology, capable of powering entire cities without a single wire or pipeline. Okay, this is great. This is going to be the opposite of a smart city, right? The cabal's end game is a smart global type of structure where everything is AI, where biometrics is installed, chip sensors, connecting people to the Internet of Things. Whereas the Y hats are saying, no, we're not going to do that. We're actually going to do the opposite of that. You know, we're going to be bringing free energy to the planet. Well, turns out that the Space Force has already been testing free energy based on Tesla's technologies, capable of powering entire cities without a single wire or pipeline. Well, the implications are staggering, my friends, right? The old system would apparently collapse overnight. And with it, the financial core of the monarchy's international holdings, Charles, already in delicate health, may have realized in that moment that him and his entire gang are about to be deposed. I guess that's the word, deposed, right? Deposed. The crown's era of quiet influence over energy policy is officially ending. So yeah, they are panicking, my friends. That's why Charles was rushed to the hospital. He almost had a heart attack. So we're not just seeing a spike in prices right now in Europe, my friends. We're actually watching the system recoil, okay? The elite energy monopolies are using the only tools they have left: fear, scarcity, and manipulated markets. But it's a last gasp. Just as the printing press broke the monopoly of the church over information, decentralized energy threatens to break the monopoly of the corporate state alliance over power, literally. Okay. So the Y hats are orchestrating this transition from the old way of using energy, which is quite primitive, right? From behind the scenes, into a Tesla based society, which again corresponds to us becoming part of a level 1 interplanetary civilization, beginning space age. This is it, guys. We are going to live through this transition where, for the first time since the fall of Atlantis, the Earthlings of planet Earth are going to be a space-faring society. Again, traveling the stars, okay? Well, if you guys watch the headlines, if you guys watch the rates, the stakes, you know, it's not what they say, okay? Just watch what happens next. That's all I'm going to say. Just watch what happens next, guys. Because when centralized energy dies, so does the old world order. And again, the only thing that is preventing and holding the disclosure of these advanced interplanetary technologies, which are actually healthier for the planet also, right? Right now, we're polluting our atmosphere, and we have been for over a century due to industrialization. But if you guys watch what's happening right now, the decentralization of energy as it dies, that's the only thing that was holding the old guard in power. The reason why they wanted to give us driplets of disclosure, right, extending it to 50 to 100 years, was because of the fact that if they disclose the technology that these secret space programs in these private sectors have been using in secret for over 80 years, that would be the end of Edison. That would be the end of petrochemical companies. That would be the end of the Barmasuit. You guys know what I mean. Everything would, and that's what holds the cabal's power structure together. It's that, okay? So, in addition to all of this, guys, I don't know if you guys watched the memorial, but Bobby Kennedy Jr. was on fire. All right. He was talking about warning us about the algorithms, the reptilian brain, and the returning of the Christ fire. Well, Bobby F. Kennedy Jr. has emerged not just as a political out, you could say, I don't want to say outcast, but a political revivalist. But he's also is a prophetic voice warning humanity of a deeper war. It's not a war of nations or economies, but of spirit, and it begins in the human brain, right? His recent remarks yesterday in the memorial shook both tech circles and spiritual communities. RFK Jr. issued a profound warning about the modern technological age and its dangers. He claimed that today's algorithms, designed by tech monopolies and refined by black box AI systems, are not neutral tools. They are precision weapons aimed directly at the reptilian brain, which is the lower brain, right, within our skull. Well, this ancient structure, known scientifically as the brain stem, is the most primitive part of our neurology. It governs survival instincts, flight or fight, dominance, fear, aggression, hunger, and tribalism. It is the part of us that reacts without reflection, that defends without dialogue, and that consumes without consciousness. Well, according to RFK Jr., that's exactly what the system wants. RFK Jr. argues that social media algorithms, political propaganda, and digital entertainments are all designed to bypass the higher centers of the human mind, reason, empathy, and intuition. And instead, it stimulates the reptilian brain, which is the lower brain. And the reason we have the reptilian brain is because when Enki downgraded the original Atlanteans, who were our ancestors, he not only mixed them with genetics from Homo erectus, but he also inserted a little bit of reptilian genetics. So unfortunately, all human beings carry that little bit of that reptilian gene, which is associated with the R complex, also known as the reptilian brain. And that's the reason why, for the last few thousand years, we have been aggressive, we have been at war, we have been barbaric. We weren't barbaric during Atlantean times because we didn't have the reptilian brain. We were intuitive. We were at a higher state of consciousness. And then Enki came along, the master geneticist. Anyways, that's a different story. Well, these technologies feed impulses, fuel outrage, and fracture societies by exploiting our deepest vulnerabilities. He suggests that this isn't merely a psychological issue. It is a metaphysical one. The reptilian brain, he says, is not just a biological remnant. It is a symbolic of a deeper reptilian control structure that has long ruled the planet. Well, the idea, controversial to some and familiar to others, holds that Earth has been under the covert dominion of an interdimensional or extraterrestrial reptilian influence. Now, he didn't mention that, but he was alluding to that, okay? An energy that thrives on what? Fear, division, hierarchy, and domination. Well, RFK Jr.'s framing the reptilian brain is both literal and symbolic to that. A neural portal that mirrors the planetary control grid itself. But this isn't a message of doom, my friends. It is a call to transcendence, okay? RFK Jr. did praise conservative activist Charlie Kirk for recognizing that the only force capable of resisting this biodigital manipulation is not political, but spiritual. Kirk called for the ignition of what he termed a spiritual fire, a conscious awakening that reconnects people back to divine truth, to moral clarity, and eternal values. It is this specific spiritual fire that was talked about by RFK Jr. that echoes, that can override the reptilian circuitry, not through more information, not through better politics, but through inner transformation. Through what, of course, what ancient traditions have always taught: the fire of the soul, the light of the divine within, the Christ flame. Bobby F. Kennedy Jr. Is very spiritual. Apparently, he is very spiritual. According to RFK Jr., that is why Jesus Christ came to earth, not merely to preach love or offer salvation, but to liberate humanity from the reptilian brain that Enki installed in us at the fall of Atlantis. And, I've actually studied a lot of metaphysical, ancient knowledge, Gnosticism, you name it. And I do remember reading in these esoteric works that, according to ancient mystics, Jesus Christ was the first one to demonstrate by reigniting and cultivating the Christ fire, right? The transformation from within, which was the only way to undo the reptilian brain. That was the only way that we could undo the primitive lower brain. Well, Christ's message wasn't just theological, my friends. It was neurological. He came to ignite the dormant flame within us that could override the instinctual circuitry of fear and survival and awaken the higher spiritual centers, the heart, the soul, and the divine mind. Well, in this interpretation, the Christ fire is very real, activating the force. It is the divine frequency that reprograms the human being away from fear toward love, away from control towards sovereignty, away from division toward unity. It is the ultimate antidote or antidote to the reptilian manipulation, both inside our brains and across the planetary matrix. So there is a call to awaken, to undo the reptilian R complex, as, of course, expressed by Bobby Kennedy Jr. We now live at the threshold, my friends, of two futures, okay? One where humanity succumbs to digital slavery, which is what I've been calling the negative technocratic dystopia, ruled by algorithms that exploit our primitive instincts. And yes, AI has already advanced to the point where it is able to sense and feel, not sense, but is able to read how you feel and read your thoughts. They do it through your cell phones, okay? So one path leads to what? Succumbs to a digital slavery ruled by algorithms that exploit our primitive instincts. And the other path is where we reclaim our divine instincts or our divine inheritance. I don't want to call them instincts. Our divine inheritance by awakening the spiritual fire that transcends biology and reclaims sovereignty over our consciousness. And that, my friends, is the true teachings of the Christian mystic, by the way. RFK Jr. also is warning us that this is not a political statement. It is a spiritual trumpet that is blasting at this time. The question is, though, which brain will rule the future? The reptilian brain through digital algorithms, or the Christ-activated mind through the liberation of our soul? Well, the battle is not coming. It is here, my friends. It is happening within. Okay? It is happening within. On a different note, this declaration by Vladimir Putin against international Satanism is not just taking place in Russia. Okay? There are financial assets that are going to be seized from the Satanists. And we all know that at the highest echelons of the NWO cabal structure, we know that it is being run by the real Satanists, okay? So, in a move that has sent shockwaves through global power structures, the Russian Federation has formally announced its intention to seize the financial assets of international Satanists and place their names on an international terror watch list. According to Russian officials, this unprecedented measure is not simply political, it is a spiritual warfare, my friends. The Kremlin has labeled Satanism a dangerous ideology that promotes the inversion of moral law, moral order, and the erosion of family structures, which is what Antifa was doing here in the States. So, again, Antifa was also controlled by the Satanists. And, of course, the systematic justification of evil. Okay. The decision, backed by high level Russian intelligence and religious institutions, is framed as a direct strike against global networks that have hidden behind corporate veils, banking institutions, and so-called philanthropic organizations. Well, at the heart of this crackdown lies a simple message from the Russian leadership, which is alliance, okay? Protecting the faith, protecting family, protecting tradition, or perish. All right, in the words of Putin himself. The ball of vampirism is ending. Quote Putin. President Vladimir Putin has never shied away from dramatic rhetoric, but his recent statements have turned even more symbolic and more direct. In a speech broadcast across Russian media, Putin declared that the ball of vampires is ending, referring to the hidden class of Western elites who, in his own words, have long fed on human flesh and money. Well, while mainstream Western outlets dismiss the statement as metaphorical, sources within the Russian Orthodox Church and aligned spiritual advisors suggest otherwise. These statements are coded messages meant to signal that the Kremlin is fully aware of the ritualistic and occult foundations underlying parts of the global elite power structure. Putin has made it clear that this is not merely about political ideology. It is a cosmic conflict between light and dark, with Satanism no longer seen as fringe or philosophical, but as an operational ideology embedded in multinational corporations, entertainment industries, Hollywood, biotech firms, right? All of those labs that were underneath Ukraine, and global finance. Well, in cooperation with allied nations outside of the Western Bloc, Russia is reportedly compiling a database of individuals, corporations, and foundations tied to Satanist symbolism or satanic symbolism, ritual activity, or anti-human practices. Well, once identified, their assets within Russian jurisdiction will be frozen and confiscated. Way to go, Putin. Additional measures include visa bans and international travel restrictions to those that are associated with these satanic cults, real-time surveillance by Russian intelligence services, inclusion on an ideological terror watch list to be distributed to BRICS and intelligence networks that are alliance. The implications are massive. Entire financial pipelines could be disrupted, and they are, like BlackRock, certain Hollywood-linked NGOs, and biotech firms with ethically suspect research histories are believed to be under scrutiny. But Russia's not acting alone, my friends. All right. The alliance is moving also to do the same to the Satanist networks here within the West. The bold move by the Russian government aligns closely with what insiders refer to as the Alliance, which is a coalition of patriots worldwide, military units, and white hat operatives operating quietly within the US and, of course, other Western nations. And their mission, my friends, is to identify, expose, and dismantle all Satanist run corporations and institutions that have hijacked the American soul as well. Well, in the US, multiple covert operations have reportedly been carried out to clean out organizations involved in little one trafficking and, of course, ritual abuse networks, black budget experiments on human consciousness and genetic manipulation, media and entertainment content promoting spiritual inversion and moral decay, which is what Antifa was doing. So the Russian crackdown, therefore, is not isolated. It is a coordinated global campaign. While the US alliance handles the domestic front, Russia is taking point on the international stage, particularly in regions where Western control has long been entrenched through NGOs, think tanks, and central banks. And unlike past eras where governments merely labeled their enemies terrorist or communist, the new battlefield is defined by spiritual alignment. Russia's move reframes global conflict as not East versus West or left versus right, but good versus evil. So by targeting Satanism as an ideology, Russia is sending a message. There will be no neutrality in this war. You either defend life, God, and moral law, right, which is what the white hats are doing here in the States, or you stand accused. So in this context, the old frameworks of diplomacy and economics no longer apply. Instead, nations are being forced to choose sides in a cosmic conflict that is quietly manifesting in courts, currencies, and consciousness. A new epoch is emerging as a result of all of this, my friends. And yes, we are steadily on a positive timeline trajectory, and I forgot to mention today's date. Today is the 22nd of September, 2025. Yes, it is our anniversary. For decades, guys, whispers of satanic influence in global leadership were dismissed as a conspiracy, all right? And today, heads of state are saying it openly. The veil is lifting. The masks are coming off. With financial seizures now in motion and a terror list underway, the message is clear. The age of hidden evil is ending. The reckoning has begun. As Putin said, the ball of vampirism is over. God bless Vladimir Putin. The question for the rest of the world is, will you dance with them or stand against them? Now, if you guys are probably thinking, how dare you say God bless Vladimir Putin? Then you better start taking the red pill, okay? You guys know, for those that are awake, that Putin is alliance, okay? And also, as revealed in my book, The Secret Government, we all know that the old guard, the synagogue of Satan, right, has always operated under different guises and has always been the intelligentsia behind all communism, socialism, fascism, nihilism, right? The synagogue of Satan, the same hidden hand that crucified the Christ, the same hidden hand that wanted to shut or silence Charlie Kirk. There is no difference, guys. All right? Their time is up. Their time is up. The golden age is upon us. Rejoice. Rejoice, guys. Rejoice, for the millennium is at hand. I do want to remind you guys that, wow, I have over 3,000 people on the chat. It's incredible. Thank you guys so much for being here. 3,156 to be exact. That's amazing. I've never had this many people alive before. I appreciate that, guys. I know I have a lot of new subscribers. I know my channel is growing, so thank you so much for all of that. Again, without you guys, I wouldn't be able to give you guys, you know, messages 3 times a week, transmissions, galactic reports, you name it. It is an honor to be here at this time. And again, for those that want to eliminate the invaders in your body, all the metals, the parasites, there is folium. And right now, the demand of folium is high because of what's happening, right? So it's about first come, first serve, guys. I always put the link in the description. Make sure you guys get your folium today because it might be sold out of stock and be out for a while. But right now, there is some in stock. There is folium in stock. There's a high demand for folium right now, as many people are trying to clear their bodies from metals, parasites, from that, right? From that stuff that people had to take 4 years ago, 3 years ago. This is the stuff that cleans that out. Okay, guys, make sure you guys don't have that stuff in your body. The solar flash is almost here. Anyhow, the link is always in the description. I always put it in the comments, and I pin it in the comments after the live. Get your folium products. There is still some in stock. The most powerful folium is Immuna, okay? The most powerful antioxidant out there, right? There is evidence that parasites could only exist in your body by virtue of having tons of heavy metals, you know, nanoparticulates, borium, you name it. The list goes on. Get rid of all of that, guys. This is the time. Yes, it's $100 a bottle, but it's worth it. Trust me, your body's health is very worth it, right? Especially during these times of Ascension. I also wanted to remind you guys that my October classes are up for grab. I see I got a super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I am super excited, guys, for everything that is happening right now. Above all, above the white hats, above the Galactic Alliance, we have God Almighty, the prime creator of all existence. And yes, God is in control, my friends. Okay, we are living in the best times ever in the history of the earth. And we are going to be witnessing the greatest transition in human history as a result of that. Okay. Well, all right, guys. This is where I wanted to thank Nancy Garrett for her donations. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. This is around the time where I actually take your questions, and you guys know the drill. Make sure you guys type your questions in capital letters, okay, in capital letters, so that I could bypass the chat. There I am. I am live. All right, cool. So I do want to give some shout outs. I see Ancient Ranger 2727 in the house, Wolf Mother, Harold, Melissa Harper, Cheryl Discrow, William Ryan, Greg, Lee Starr, Eddie K of Light. What's up, Eddie K? Diane77, Steppenwolf, Brenda Welkowiak, Unnamed Guy, Jackie Baby, Starcadian, thank you so much for being here. And yes, Starcadian is already posting the link for the folium, guys. Okay, make sure you guys get your folium because the demand for this product is high right now because everybody wants to get rid of those parasites and those metals, those nanoparticulates, smart dust, all of the stuff that they spray us with. Get rid of it. This is a time to clean your body out. Okay. I also wanted to give Elizabeth Nemesti a shout out. Maitreya is in the house. John Patrick, Carol Roanfield, Patricia Seca or Sicha, MJF, Jose Mendez, Deanne Johnson, Shauna is in the house. Chris is in the house. Sylvia Bedell, and all 3,000 people that are in the house. Wow, this is the biggest live so far. Awesome. This is great. Oh, and happy autumn equinox, guys. Happy autumn equinox. I hope you guys did your own clearing yesterday. It was a very powerful alignment with the partial solar eclipse and the dark moon. It was an opportunity to let go of the old and manifest the new, guys. So I hope you guys did your own little spiritual rituals yesterday. And I hope you all were grounded and just amplifying your sovereignty, right? Amplifying your sovereignty as individuals made in the image of the Most High. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take some Q&A. I see I have my first super chat. Thank you so much, 7P, for that super chat. I appreciate that, brother. All right, guys, all questions in capital letters. And yeah, please don't forget to hit the like button. It would be nice if I get like 3,000 likes right now. I have 3,000 people. Imagine if all 3,000 of you just hit the like really quick. It's not much effort, it's priceless. Thank you guys. All right, I appreciate that. Oh, I quit tobacco. It feels different. 7P says that. Congratulations, brother. Anyone that is getting off of substance abuse, whether it's alcohol, tobacco, or drugs or anything, congratulations, guys. Okay, it is very hard to not be addicted to things. So I just want to say congratulations. I also have another super chat from Joyful. Welcome, Joyful. She says, Ishmael, not sure you remember my situation with my mom who had severe dementia, but she passed away this morning and my heart is broken. She was my best friend. Please pray for her. My condolences go to you, Joyful. Thank you for sharing that. And I know that you are going to be seeing your mom soon on the great day of graduation, which is what we call the Ascension. She says, I feel emptiness without her. Ah, Joyful. We are all here with you, sister. Every galactic Jedi that is in the house is here praying for your mother and also praying for you. May you have the patience to understand that your mom is in a better place and she is no longer suffering. And yes, Joy, you will see her again. Okay, you will see her again. So my condolences goes out to you, Joy. I see you're getting a lot of love from all the galactic Jedis. Nice. Joyful is getting a lot of love for her mother passing away. They're all praying for her. All right, guys. At this point, I am looking for questions. And by the way, guys, I do appreciate the super chats. For those that do give super chats, for sure you're going to get your question answered. So I do appreciate it, by the way. Everything helps at this time. It's fascinating that today I have over 3,000 galactic Jedis, freedom fighters, light workers, patriots, God loving people. I love it. I love it. That's right. Reptilian R complex be removed. In fact, Jesus came. He was the first one to show us how to neutralize the R complex, the lower reptilian brain. All right, and Bobby Kennedy Jr. just kind of reminded us. Again, guys, everything that was shared yesterday in that memorial was all designed by the Y Hats to amplify and to continue collapsing negative timelines. All right, to continue collapsing the negative timelines. All right, for those that sign up for my courses, right when you sign up for my class via my website or cosmicorigin.com, immediately you get a responding email. That responding email that says, thank you for taking my course, is about 2 to 3 pages. You have to scroll down. And when you scroll down, there is a Zoom link. Save that Zoom link. That is the Zoom link for all 4 classes. Some people just don't know how to do that. They think that the Zoom link is in the first page. No, you have to scroll down on the responding email. Okay, that's the way I set it up on my website. Now, for those that had difficulty attending my class, I think there were several of you, just email me at my private email, projectrestorationzion@gmail.com, and I will send you guys the link, of course, with the picture of proof that you paid for my course. All right? So show me the picture of proof that you paid for my course, and I will send you guys the link. I had only a few people that were having difficulty finding the link. But in general, when you sign up for my course, you get a responding email. You scroll all the way down, and there is a Zoom link in blue. All right. So I had a blast getting to know some of the new Galactic Jedis over the weekend from my first class this September. It is exciting to get to know you guys on a deeper level, right? I don't really know who watches me, but every time I meet a new Galactic Jedi and I hear about yourselves, I hear where you're from, I hear how you heard of me, it actually motivates me to continue the work that I do, guys. All right. So my October classes are up for grab. And my classes are cheap, guys. You guys are getting $1,000 courses for only $100. You can't go wrong with that, right? I'm not doing it for the money, guys. I'm doing it for the ascension, for the awakening, for the collective. I do have another super chat from Sonia Davies. She says, "Happy anniversary to you, Monica and Ishmael. Happy anniversary to you, Monica and Ishmael."
Thank
Well,
you.
thank
Love
you.
and light.
Thank you. Love and light. Right back to you, sister. Do you know Jesus? Yes, of course I know Jesus. You know, once you reach a certain level of consciousness, which is what we call unity consciousness, right? Which really demands forgiveness, service to others, respecting all life forms. You actually get to know Jesus on a personal level. Okay, so that is the true meaning of having a spiritual awakening, and this is really what is known as also as being born again. And it has nothing to do with religion. You don't have to have a pastor. You don't have to go to a building every Sunday. You could actually do it from the privacy of your own home, guys. Okay, understand that Christ is also inside of you, right? When you understand that, you no longer depend on external forces to dictate your faith and what you should do. At that point, you are aligned with God directly, all right? And this is what the Essenes, the original followers of the way, right? This is what they taught their students. This is what Jesus and Mary Magdalene, Mary of Arimathea, Paul, Joseph of Arimathea, and Martha and of Bethany, and all of those, James the Just, John the Revelator, all of those people that were part of the community of Qumran, the Essenes. This is what they taught. They didn't teach religion. They taught people how to connect with God directly from within by cultivating and understanding that the Christ is within us all. Now, it was the Roman Catholic Church, which is really the Roman Empire under a new name, that completely corrupted everything and created religion. Okay. All of that is coming to an end, guys. All that is coming to an end. So where did Ishmael go? I'm still here. I'm still here. All right, this is a good question regarding the Folium product. For those that are taking Folium, make sure you guys get your bottles today because the demand for this supply is high right now. It only takes a week to notice a difference. If you are taking it consistently every day, 3 times a day, one pill on an empty stomach, 30 minutes before a meal, you guys are going to see the difference. Okay. When you start eliminating those metals, by virtue of that, you're also eliminating the parasites. You're also cleaning out your body from all the radiation, right? From these frequencies. You're also empowering and cleansing the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell. And when that happens, your body undergoes its own healing process. Now, disclaimer, I am not a doctor, all right? But I am a person who has been taking this product for over 2 years, and I noticed the difference just within the first week of taking the product. Now, the longer you take the product, the better it's going to be. All right. Imagine waking up every morning, having that peaceful mind and that clear headiness, knowing that your body has no metals, no graphene, no nanoparticulates, no aluminum, no barium, and all of those things, right? You feel much better, guys. You feel much healthier. You'll have more energy. You sleep better at night. I mean, God, the benefits are multiple. All right, let's continue with the questions. Yes, Vic Lynn is asking me, did I get my card? Yes, I do get all your mail. For those that want to know my mailing address, first of all, thank you so much for all the Galactic Jedis that are sending me cards, mail. I appreciate that. Gifts, donations. You guys are awesome. You guys are helping my cause. So my mailing address is 1771 West State Route 89A, Suite B, number 3015 in Sedona, Arizona, zip code 86336. That is my mailing address. So I wanted to thank you. And yes, Vic Lynn, I did receive your card and I appreciate that. That was very heartfelt, sister. Thank you. Thank you. I also wanted to thank, I just received this today, a card from Sal Pesse or Pesque. Thank you so much, brother Sal. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Nathan Taylor, for your super chat. Your question is, why did not do the reverse rapture in 2016 or sooner? Then we could have moved to 5D sooner. Good question. Well, the best way to answer that question is everything happens in God's timing. Everything happens in God's timing, guys. Okay. Why didn't it happen in 2012 at the end of the Mayan calendar? Well, there was a shift in 2012, right? There was a shift. And still, many believe that since we have been using the wrong timekeeping system known as the Gregorian calendar, that the real 2012 is supposed to be now between 2024 and 2025. Okay, so just know that God is in control, and when the time the time is right at the ending of all these cycles. We have to honor the cycles as well, the planetary and stellar alignments, the stellar activation. You could say rhythms. So we have to honor all of that, guys. So will something happen tomorrow on the 23rd? I guess we're all going to find out. We're all going to find out together. All right, Ishmael, since we are going to be living in 5D soon, we do not need anything, money, food, or housing, no materials, things that are burdens. We are healthy. In the 5D and above, yes. In the 4th D reality, because some people the majority of younger souls are going to go to the 4th D Earth, then they're still going to need a home. They're still going to need replicators. They're still going to need cars, hover cars, as they go into a Star Trek society. But beyond the 5th, no, we are able to manifest at the speed of thought. Lynn Clark says the 23rd is my birthday. It's tomorrow. Happy early birthday, Lynn Clark.
Wish you a lot of luck.
Yeah, we wish you a beautiful birthday tomorrow, sister. I hope all your wishes come true. Ishmael, is it possible that our frequencies have gotten stronger after yesterday's black moon? I believe so, yeah, because due to how the Y-hats use this celestial cosmic event as an opportunity to do a reversal harvest, which is what? A revival of positive energy, of inspiring people, of waking up the masses, then yes, I believe that, our frequency did reach another level. I do believe that. And it's also on a collective, right? I believe that yesterday, not only did we collapse a lot of negative timelines, but we also established, furthermore, The positive timeline trajectory. Absolutely. Happy birthday, Lynn. Well, Lynn's getting a lot of love for her birthday tomorrow. That's good to know. Angela, man, is saying, do I have to keep reposting until after Super Chat, or how does this work? I am not mad at all, just confused, wondering how this works with all these interesting questions. Well, Angela, I'm going to wait for you to ask me a question. I'm going to look out for your question on the chat. Go ahead and ask me any question you want. Angela Mann. She goes by Angela Mann. So go ahead and ask me a question, sister. You're next. I'm waiting for Angela's question. All right. Well, as Angela writes down her question, I'm going to answer more in the meantime. Well, the name Christian was first appeared when the Reformation took place. Because remember, during the apostasy, right, during the Dark Ages, when the Roman Catholic Church ruled the world in the Dark Ages, which was really ruled by Satan, right? Satanists control the Catholic Church. There was the Reformation that took place by Knox, Luther, and Calvin, and that's when the word Christian first appeared. It was part of the revolt against the Roman Catholic Church. And the reason the word Christian appeared with the reformers was to pretty much to allow people to read the Bible. They wanted people to read the Bible for the first time. And also, they were people that wanted to become like Christ, you could say. That's why they call themselves Christians. But in terms of organized religions, Christ never wanted a religion. Christ never called himself a Christian either. Christ was, you could say, the most radiant one that taught us how to become one with God by going within. Okay. And this is something that the organized religions never taught. Good question. Thank you, Susan K. Thank you, Susan K, for your donation. And by the way, the same personal email, project restoration zion at gmail.com, is connected to my Zelle for those that want to support my cause. Again, I don't have subscriptions. I like to give free information. I don't have Patreon, I don't have none of that, but only, out of your own free will, if you feel like you want to support my cause, every donation counts. Thank you so much for that, sister, by the way. Are the beings in 3i Atlas in stasis like the other beings you discussed recently? No, they're not in stasis. They're very well operational. They're walking on the ship just like me and you. In fact, if you guys watch my previous live, they're actually communicating with the Department of Justice, the White Alliance through Space Force, and the Admirals of Solar Warden. Watch my last live, guys. My last live was my third presentation on 3i Atlas. Thank you, Starcadian. I appreciate you always posting the links for things. I appreciate that, brother. Pamela Starzek says, I never got my question answered either. Pamela, ask me a question right now. Type it in the chat. I'll answer your question next. Okay, Pamela? If you could hear me, I'm sure you can. Is the movie Lucy showing the truth of spiritual evolution? Absolutely. Yeah, it is. Waiting for your question, Pamela. No, Christ wasn't Jewish. Well, he's not what we call today the Jews. Okay, he was different. He was a descendant of Shem, a descendant of Abraham, who were the original. They call themselves Israelites, but what I've come to discover is that the reason the ancient Israelites were preserved from mating or mixing with the other tribes is because they carried a pure DNA code that is Lyran, Syrian, and Palladian. They had no reptilian in them. So that's why they had a pure genetic code. Okay. But then later, of course, that genetic code was corrupted when all these, interbreedings took place. But that's the reason why the original Abraham or the original Israelites, the descendants of Abraham, were prohibited from mating with the Canaanites and the other Knights, was because they carried a pure Lyran, Syrian, Palladian genetic code. That's the reason. Okay, so the original Jews were the carriers who had the highest concentration of Lyran, Palladian, Syrian genetics, not reptilian. Okay, the Jews of today have reptilian in them. Okay, they're fake Jews, especially the ones that are controlling the state of Israel. Those are reptilian human hybrids that are disguising themselves as Jews. Okay, wake up, guys. Time to wake up. Let's see. All right, I'm still waiting for your question. Is it Pamela? Pamela, does she ever ask the question again? Okay, I tried, Pamela. I tried to answer your question. If we are all going to 4D and 5D, will we be separated? And will some of us not even make it? This is a question from Sharon Meyer. I'm just picking random questions now. Well, like I said, many of times, those that go to the 5th D and above are going to have the ability to go into the 4th D at will and interact with the younger souls that are going to be graduating in increments, right? So, yeah, we're going to have access to the 4th D. But those in the 4th D will not have access to the 5th D or above. Ishmael, do Black Hebrew Israelites exist? Yeah, they do exist. They do. Mm-hmm. I'm looking for Angela's question. I mean, Pamela, and Angela too. I think Angela and Pamela. If you guys have a question, I'm looking for it.
I can tell you what Angela's was.
What was her question?
How close is Three-Eye Atlas?
Right now, it is passing through. It just passed through Jupiter, and it was actually corresponding with the Jupiter command. And it's actually now heading towards close to Mars. So now it's getting closer to Mars.
I think they wanted the date. I think we're saying.
Well, it's still scheduled to be here by the 29th, 30th of October, or closest to us.
By the sun.
By the sun, I'm sorry.
Closest to here, December.
Oh yeah, it's scheduled to be here by December, and then of course At the end of October, it's going to be closest to the sun, but by December 21st, is going to be closest to the
And
earth.
she has the other part. How do we correctly repent, and how do we see our traumas and blocks?
Well, one of the things that I teach you in my Ascension 2.0 course is how to heal from your traumas and how to nullify old karmic loops, so you don't ever have to come back to any lower dimension. You could just keep ascending all the way up. Now, I want to thank Stephen Peter for his donation. Thank you so much, brother. It was well received. I appreciate that. You guys want to know what I sit on besides the chair? You guys want to know what I use? Some of you guys are going to laugh. Okay, so when I mention Dr. Doom, right? Sometimes I talk about the big gates and Dr. Doom. I got to show you guys this. This is going to crack you guys up. So this is what I sit on, okay, guys? This is what I sit on. I like sitting on his face. So that, I know. I just wanted to show the Galactic Jedis what I'm sitting on. So yeah, that's when I talk about Dr. Doom. That's where I'm referring to that guy. All right. I forgot to mention, I want to welcome Jesus the Christ, the firstborn in heaven, Michael the Archangel, the overseer and adept of the 12 creation, which our universe is a part of, my books, and the Conscious Life Expo Award that I won thanks to the support and vote of the Galactic Jedis. All right, one more question. It's about that time. One more question. What happens to those entrenched in Christian sects that do not see the ascension? Well, there is this thing called critical mass. And when critical mass takes place, even those that are still part of the religious program are going to have the opportunity to snap out of that hypnosis. It's a hypnosis. That's what it is. They are under hypnosis. All right. People that are part of religious organizations that say this is the only way, and they're fighting other people's beliefs. They're all part of the program. Okay. There will be a point in time, guys, due to the mass awakening, critical shift, that even those that are still aligning with the programs of these religious cults, of these religious organizations, are going to have the opportunity to snap out of hypnosis and realize the truth. Okay. All right, guys. With that have said, I hope you guys love tonight's presentation. The Y-hats and the Alliance are well in phase 4. We are all going to be witnessing the transition into a new, better world. And I can't wait. I'll see you guys in 2 days for another update. May the God force be with you all, always.
Thank you.